The Florida Gators put in some work this weekend, landing 3 commitments on Sunday evening.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. Happy Christmas Eve. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use with Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And just a reminder that, yes, this is Christmas week. We will still have a show every day coming out. We are your team every day, and we mean that crap, right? We mean it here with Locked On Gators. So we will have a show every day. If there's news, probably won't be a live show, but we will have news, or we will have shows every day this week. If you're traveling, stay safe. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you celebrate anything else, I hope you have a wonderful anything that you celebrate. The Florida Gators on Sunday made quite a few waves, landing 5-star receiver. We're not going in order of the commitments, but landing 5-star wide receiver Dallas Wilson. I mean, I feel like I've pretty much expressed a lot that I think Dallas Wilson's an incredible player. He's my favorite receiver in the class. I understand that, yes, we had Vernell Brown drop his ranking to a 4-star, and yes, that's annoying, and yes, On3 sucks for it, and anybody else that dropped them sucks for it. Here's the thing. I don't give a damn. Once they're committed, I don't care. Simple as that. So Florida Gators landed Dallas Wilson. He is technically their only 5-star receiver in this class, but he's a damn good one. Like I said on Sunday, I liked his film more than I like Vernell Brown III's film. I think Dallas Wilson's a more complete wide receiver, and I think he's got a higher ceiling right now than Vernell Brown III. But I think Dallas Wilson presents the perfect skill set for the Florida Gators, right? I think he's got the size that we know they've been looking for at 6'2", 6'3", depending on where you look. He's realistically, I want to say 6'2 and a half. But he's got that size that you go, okay, well, he could step in, be an outside receiver in the SEC right now and beyond size-wise. But I love his skill set with DJ Lagway specifically. I've been talking about the big body receivers part where we know this coaching staff, they've been looking for the big bodied receivers, right? In the transfer portal, everybody they looked at except for Jonte Cook, 6'2 and above. Everybody else is a bigger receiver. Why are they looking for that? Because that's what you need with DJ Lagway. And I know there's a lot of people that just bring up, oh, well, every team needs these 6'3", 6'4" receivers. Every team needs this. Every team needs that. I don't think that that's true. Okay? I don't think that's true when you're talking about what every team needs. I think that big arm quarterbacks need big body receivers. I don't think that every team needs big body receivers. I think having big body receivers absolutely helps, but I don't think that every team needs big body receivers. I think every big arm quarterback needs a big body receiver. And I've explained this before. I will continue to explain it. It has nothing to do with, is DJ Lagway inaccurate? Nothing to do with that. With Anthony Richardson, yeah, he was inaccurate. Big bodied receivers definitely helped him. But with every big arm quarterback that's actually going to throw the deep ball and think, hey, I can make these tight window throws. Because it doesn't have to just be running vertical. It could be running a hitch. It could be running a dig. It could be running any route where there's going to be traffic around them. Okay? Those big body receivers give you a better catch radius. Think back to Kentucky in 2023. Graham Mertz had that interception when he threw it to Arliss Boardingham, and there were 3 defenders around Arliss, and he high pointed it, and he threw it up, and it hit Arliss's hands and dropped into Kentucky defenders' hands. Those kinds of passes, like, you don't throw that to a Trey Wilson. You don't throw that to a VB3. Like, you don't throw those high point passes in traffic to these smaller receivers. You throw them to bigger receivers, right? And that was one of the more aggressive throws we saw Graham Mertz make in his entire tenure at the University of Florida. DJ Lagway makes those kind of as just part of his game. He's looking for those aggressive passes, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But having those big body receivers gives you a larger catch radius to hit. If you've got a 6'3" receiver going up against a 6'1" corner, you could throw that thing up there, right? Put it up on the top shelf. He's more likely to come down with it. If you're throwing vertical, put it up on the top shelf. He's more likely to come down with it. Throwing a dig route, get it past the corner. Corner's right behind the receiver, get it out in front of him. Not just to give him room to run after, but because then the DB can't make a play on the ball. Big arm quarterbacks that are aggressive are going to make more tight window throws or attempt more tight window throws. Probably going to attempt more downfield passes. Having these big-bodied receivers helps you. The J. Michael Sturdivants, the Dallas Wilsons. Having that helps you. That's why they wanted these big-bodied receivers. They weren't like, oh, yeah, we just need big-bodied receivers. We don't have that. No, they want these guys that can go up and make these plays, that can go out and make these plays, that DJ Lagway is going to put them in position to make. It's not simply about, well, we don't have enough 6'2" receivers. It's we have a QB that's going to make these passes successfully. We need to give him receivers that can go make these plays. And historically, it's those bigger body receivers. I don't even know why I said historically. It's not even historically. It's just football. Those bigger body receivers are usually better catching in traffic. Part of that is because they're usually worse separators, and so it's tough to make catches there. So that's part of it. But also, Dallas Wilson is just damn good. Love to skill set with DJ Lagway. I think he's a great fit for the Florida Gators. I do think that Dallas Wilson is going to step in and be a contributor right away. I'm not going to say a starter right away, but I do think he's going to be a contributor right away. I really love this film. Thought he was a monster at Tampa Bay Tech. Was very not pleased when he went to Oregon, but now that he's back in Gainesville, very happy with the addition of Dallas Wilson to this team. And again, like you look at the receiver room for 2025, and you're looking at arguably the best receiver room in the country in 2025 for the Florida Gators. Like genuinely, that's a conversation that's going to be had. We're not going to have it too much today, but it's a conversation that's going to be had. We are about to talk about DeShawn Purdie, another addition for the Florida Gators on Sunday when we get back with Locked On Gators. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, and FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I mean, just this past Sunday alone, right? I cashed on Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown. I mean, it was like plus 240 or something like that. It was stupid easy money when I bet it. So Brian Thomas Jr., touchdown. I bet Caden Ellis, Falcons linebacker, to get a sack against the New York Giants because, he's their leading sacker. He's their best blitzer, and they were going to blitz against the Giants, okay? And so Caden Ellis did get a sack, and that cashed as well. Betting against the Giants, generally a good bet. Betting against the Raiders, generally a good bet. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance to win $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators addressed their backup quarterback situation on Sunday. And we'll just, before we even talk about DeShawn Purdie, take this back for a second to what happened this year, right? You brought in Clay Millen from Colorado State in the transfer portal. He got passed up by Aiden Warner, a preferred walk-on transfer quarterback from Yale, redshirt freshman. So he got passed up by Aiden Warner. You had Graham Mertz to start the year. He got concussed and missed a game, and then he tore his ACL and missed the remainder of the season. You had DJ Lagway, who got injured against Georgia, missed the game against Texas, and then came back. But quarterback situation wasn't great, right? And I know that people, and this is something that I know we're just going to constantly go back and forth with each other about with Aiden Warner against Texas. I know that there are people who say, well, you can't expect Aiden Warner to perform well. You can't expect any QB3 to perform well against Texas. Here's the thing. I didn't expect anybody to play well against Texas or any QB3 to perform well against Texas. However, Aiden Warner is not a quality QB3. Clay Millen was not a quality QB3. Okay? And they were your QB3. Whoever your QB3 wasn't going to be good, right? Then on top of that, I thought that the coaches didn't do a good job against Texas. That was an issue as well. But that made getting into the transfer portal so much more important for the Florida Gators this year at quarterback because Graham Mertz is gone, out of eligibility, not even attempting to get another one, which is wise for him, in my opinion. But now, DJ Lagway and his backup, Aiden Warner, Clay Millen, true freshman Tramel Jones. Maybe it's DeShawn Purdie, dual threat quarterback, took over the starting job at Charlotte this past season. I think it was Blue Orange Gator that said, this is DeShawn Purdie is the player to be named later that they got from the Max Brown trade because Max Brown transferred to Charlotte and DeShawn Purdie now transferring to Florida. And DeShawn Purdie took Max Brown's job at Charlotte. But DeShawn Purdie completed 50% of his passes, a low completion percentage. If you account for drops, that percentage climbs to 58.2%. Still a low percentage. 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. I will say this about every quarterback for Charlotte. They all had bad years. And I do believe that part of it was I don't think they did well on the offensive line. Like building the offensive line. I think that was a focal point for them in the transfer portal last year. And I think they whiffed on a lot. And I think that their offensive system just crumbled, especially when Biff Poggi got fired. I think it just crumbled at that point. So nobody had good numbers. Nobody had good completion percentage. Nobody had high passing numbers. It was just a train wreck on offense. And I do think the coaching failed everybody on that team, including Max Brown, everyone. DeShawn Purdie also ran for 81 yards and a touchdown on 17 carries. Here's the thing. He lost 11 yards on designed runs, which is an interesting thing. And it's not that he's not athletic. That was part of the offensive line being poor. Hey, we're going to run QB blast. Never mind. Our QB got blasted immediately. Things like that happened a bit. So DeShawn Purdie, 12 carries were scrambles, and he picked up 92 yards on those. Pretty decent number. That's what I'm going to do the math right here, but I'm assuming it's like 8-ish yards per carry. 7.67 yards per carry on scrambles. Pretty good number, especially if you consider most times when you scramble, picking up 7 2/3 yards, pretty good spot to be in, right? Even if that's 1st and 10, you put yourself in 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 2, depending on where you're at. Pretty good spot to be in. Those are efficient scrambling numbers. DeShawn Purdie just finished his freshman year. And here's the thing we talked about a lot when I know I'll be in Twitter spaces and everything, and people talk about Aaron Noland hit the transfer portal, and it was, go get Aaron Noland. Go get him to back up DJ Lagway. That was never going to happen. Okay? You weren't going, because the transfer portal, adding a backup quarterback for a blue chip true freshman quarterback in the transfer portal is really tough because a lot of guys that hit the portal aren't going to a place where they know they're going to be the backup. And a lot of guys, they hit the portal because they want earlier playing time, especially if they're veterans, they want earlier playing time. If they're young guys, they don't want to go to a spot where it's like, hey, you're going to sit for at least 2 years. A lot of people don't want to do that. DeShawn Purdie was not a blue chip quarterback. Obviously, he went to Charlotte and then it entered the portal and came to Florida. So just finished his true freshman season. You're going to be able to develop him in this system. And don't get me wrong, he's pretty raw, right? He's a pretty raw quarterback. There's no doubt about that. He's an athlete with a big arm. I will say this. DeShawn had the second best deep passing grade on PFF among true freshmen in college football. The only true freshman quarterback that had a better deep passing grade on PFF than DeShawn Purdie DJ Lagway. So the Florida Gators are in a pretty good spot, right? And this is one of the rare times, really the only time in Billy Napier's tenure at the University of Florida where the backup quarterback has a very similar skill set to the starter. 2022, you had Anthony Richardson, and his backup was Jack Miller III. Okay? AR, big arm athlete. Jack Miller, not unathletic, but not a big arm guy. 2023, you had Graham Mertz and Max Brown. I mean, they couldn't be more opposite, right? Graham Mertz, pocket passer, accurate underneath, gonna try to attack you like that. Max Brown, big arm quarterback, looking to run, just again, pure athlete with a big arm. That was the move for Max Brown. Very different from Graham Mertz. Then 2024, Graham Mertz, DJ Lagway. Again, big arm, athletic. DJ Lagway, way more athletic, of course, or way more accurate than Max Brown, but still very different from Graham Mertz. Now you look at 2025, and you're actually putting yourself in position to have a quarterback that is worse than your starter, of course, but skill set wise can give you a lot of the same, and that's what you're finally looking for. Like, that's why there are starters and backups. The guys are better, right? But when you have backups that are stylistically completely different, it doesn't help you if injuries happen, right? If you have, we'll say, a tight end, right? Tight end who, great blocker, horrible receiver. His backup, great receiver, horrible blocker. You've got to change what your tight end's role is in the offense if an injury happens. Like, that's got to be a shift that you make. Same thing with quarterback. If you go from a Graham Mertz to a DJ Lagway, you're asking them to do different things. You don't want that. You want to just be able to seamlessly go, hey, this is what we're running. We're building a team that can do this. If it's starters or backups, we're building a team. Now, the next man up mentality is more reasonable. Okay? It's not very reasonable to say, oh, yeah, next man up, but we've got to change everything we do. Because then it's not just stepping in seamlessly. It's that you're stepping in and changing everything you do. And that's just not sustainable. That's not winning football, right? The Florida Gators did add another player on Sunday evening. We will talk about him next on Locked On Gators. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means that when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier, and over the next week or so, you got a lot of games you can go to, okay? There's a lot of NFL games. There's a lot of college football games. There's a lot of college basketball games coming up in about 2 weeks, but you got a lot of games you can catch up on, right? And last-minute tickets, easy to get on Game Time, okay? I promise you. I bought tickets day of. I've done it before. Watch baseball games. I've done it day of, morning of. I buy it. I've said that before. With the Mets specifically, I like to go see good pitcher versus good pitcher. So I wait to make sure who the starters are, not probable starters, but who the starters are named, and then I'll go buy tickets and go. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time, baby. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. To wrap up today's show, we are talking about the first portal edition from Sunday, but the last player we're talking about because we had a full show come out about him when he committed on Sunday. It's Kofi Asari, edge rusher out of UMass, Massachusetts. And I said this before he committed. I said this when he committed, and I will say this again. I am not a huge fan of the film that Kofi Asari put out. I acknowledge that, sure, he had some of his higher graded games against SEC talent. Sure, because UMass played Mississippi State, Missouri, and Georgia this year. I don't know why UMass had three SEC games on schedule, and I don't know why they hosted Missouri. That was weird to me. Really weird to have a home game against an SEC team, but they did. And yeah, he had higher graded games against those teams. Sure. I don't care about the PFF grades. I am a PFF user, subscriber. I pay for it, but grades don't matter that much to me. The stats do, the grades don't. I think Kofi Asari on film, he's got promise. And like I've said before, my biggest issue with him is that I feel like he doesn't have much of a pass rush toolbox. And I know Austin Armstrong made people hate the word toolbox. That's fine. But I don't think Kofi Asari has much of a pass rush toolbox. And that was an issue for me with TJ Searcy as well, who now is committed to Texas A&M. Good job for finally getting the guy you tampered with, Texas A&M. The other one went to LSU. But that was my big issue with TJ Searcy. I didn't think he had much of a pass rush toolbox. Hand fighting wasn't much of a thing. It was like, I'm just going to run into you and hope for the best. And I feel like Kofi Asari does that at times. And so for me, I look at Kofi Asari, and I think he's got promise once you teach him some pass rush moves. I just don't view him as a needle mover right now. And my philosophy in the portal right now would be needle movers only. And so that's why I'm not a huge fan of the Kofi Asari addition. That being said, every time I've said I don't like the addition that much, I have also said if he is going to work with Gerald Chapman, we don't know the exact roles of everybody yet, right? But if he's going to work with Gerald Chapman, I'm cool with it. I think that Gerald Chapman is one of those coaches, and we talked about this a while back as well, probably over a month ago at this point, but Gerald Chapman has become one of those coaches where I don't care my opinion of the player. And I look at that with Gerald Chapman. Jabbar Jaluk's another guy that I look at that with. And right now, Will Harris is getting there. I'm not going to lie. Will Harris is getting there. But I don't care my opinion of the player. If you like the player, if you see the player and you say, I think I can make him something, I'm cool with it. I trust your opinion more than mine, right? Probably. A lot of people should trust your opinion more than mine, right? But I do think that Gerald Chapman is one of those coaches that has simply earned the right to take who he wants, and I won't be upset with it. Would I have taken Kofi Asari? No. But Gerald Chapman, this coaching staff, think that they've got a guy that can come in and contribute. Do it. You nailed the George Gums edition, the George Gums eval last year, right? Do it. I'm interested to see the role that Kofi Asari plays because size-wise, he's a little bit bigger than George Gums. But Kofi Asari also has never dropped into coverage, and the jack position does drop into coverage a lot. So I look at Kofi Asari and I say, well, are you going to play more of the Tyreek Sapp role? Because you could say, hey, Kofi, we're gonna beef you up a little bit. Then we're going to put LJ McCray at jack, and then we're going to play Kofi as that DN spot behind Tyreek Sapp if he returns. There's multiple directions you could go with it. I'm just interested to see what the move is there, what the plan is, because Kofi Asari, also not one of the top-rated players at the edge position in the portal. This is clearly a guy that I think the coaching staff took because they viewed a role for him. Like that, they took him with a plan in mind. This wasn't how we talked about with Dallas Wilson, Jay McAllister, Jonte Cook, I've been saying. Like, just take them and figure it out later. I don't think Kofi Asari is that kind of player. I think that when you're looking at players like Kofi Asari and the lower-rated players, it's not just take them and figure it out later. We have to take them with a plan in mind for what they're going to be. And so I believe this coaching staff has that plan for Kofi Asari. I don't know what it's going to be. My expectation for 2025 would be for him to be a rotational piece, especially with how much youth is on that defensive front. Competition is a welcome addition, right? If he earns that playing time over the blue chip talent that's on the line, so be it. I'm fine with it. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, even though it's Christmas Day. We will be back tomorrow for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.